All right. Okay, so today we are talking about Dance Upon the Air by the lovely Nora Roberts, which I always call Dancing Upon the Air.
Yeah, me too.
But it's not. So that's not good. All right, so why don't you give a summary?
Okay. Right, Dance Upon the Air is about this lady who moves to Three Sisters Island to get away from a situation. And it's about her finding herself, about the friends that she meets, and all that happens to her. And I think that's... Anything else you want to add?
I think that the best part about the book overall is definitely the setting.
Yeah.
100%. I just feel like it was such a nice setting, and the island was so nice. So, no, I mean, I think that was a pretty good non-spoilery review and little summary of what it's about.
And folk are going to go, people who are watching this are going, is this all we're getting?
Yeah, I know, right? That's it. Yay. No, we'll talk about what we rated it. So,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. What did you rate it? Do you remember?
I think I gave it a 5.
Did you?
Hold on. Wait till I get my little bookie.
I gave it.
Yeah, I get a 5.
5.
Yeah, I get a 5.
Now, I wasn't expecting to give it a 5 because in the beginning I liked it, but I was interested, but I didn't feel like I kept wanting to continuously pick it up.
Right.
So I was like, this is good, but it's not the best. But then I felt like by the middle I bought into it, and then I was like hooked.
Yeah, I think this at the beginning, when you sort of meet her at first and you're like, yeah, okay, fine. And then at times you felt, well, can we not just kind of move on with, we know there was maybe too much about why she had done what she'd done. And I thought maybe that was in too much detail, but I can understand why now that it was done like that. Are we doing non-spoilery now? Are we still non-spoilery or are we on spoilery?
I think we can move into spoilers.
Okay. I think that she had to build up the situation because obviously abusive relationships are not good, so she wanted to make everybody realize just how bad it had been. So therefore Nell needed to keep having these flashbacks as to what Evan had done to her in order for her to move on and to accept who she was becoming, and for her to become move from Helen to Nell.
Yeah, and I feel like I agree with you. Some of it almost felt like we were beating it like a dead horse. Like it was, let's just move on. And then I felt like some of it was necessary to go into depth. I felt like something that bothered me, we're just gonna jump right into it. This is just my train of thought. Something that bothered me is at the beginning of the story, Nell always like cowers because she thinks that Zach is gonna like beat her or whatever. But then even like at almost the very end of the book, when they have like their big fight, when he finds out that she's still married and everything, and before she tells him all of it, she's still anxious about him. And I feel like throughout the entire second half of the book, all they're talking about is how much she's grown and how strong she is and how she's not afraid of him anymore and like all this stuff. So I didn't really understand why, if she'd come so far and she was so much stronger and was past that, why she was still then, they still made it like this huge deal, like, oh, she's cowering, don't forget she was abused kind of thing. Like I kind of felt like sometimes it was pushed in there so that like you couldn't forget about it.
Yeah.
And like
I also think that she needed to write it like that. Because yes, she had come so far, but there was still part of her that was very much like, well, you know, what happens if he doesn't like me as much as, and when he realizes what my whole story is, that he is going to hate me. So therefore, there was always still going to be that part of her that was like, you know, cowering and like, no, okay, yeah, I can cope with so much, but if he rejects me, then what's going to happen? I think that was building up to.
That's true. Are we allowed to talk about like the big spoiler? That
You mean the M word?
the M word?
Magic.
No, not that spoiler.
Which spoiler?
The spoiler, which is that she's pregnant.
They're pregnant. Whoa! That for a spoiler.
But you don't know that yet?
No, you don't.
Just throw up?
Yeah. I think it's great. You know.
I thought it was great, but then it panicked me the entire time that the ending was happening because I was like, what if she gets thrown on her stomach? What if she gets stabbed in her stomach? What if something happens to this baby that no one knows exists yet? And that's how we find out. So I was like, just kind of freaking out a little bit.
No, I think it's nice that has happened. I mean, herself and Zach will be great. They will just, they're such a brilliant couple.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've got Mia and Ripley and probably Lulu and most of the island on their, on their side, I think it'll be a great partnership and a great family.
Yeah. I think that always bothers me. Like every time in a book, just the way they write those kinds of things when it's like a surprise that she's pregnant. So it's like, oh, she's throwing up. Oh, it must be what I ate, is what they like always think to themselves, and then it just moves on. And that was what it was like in this book. And I was like, so it's obviously she's pregnant. Because it was like, oh man, I'm so stressed out. That's why I'm throwing up. No. It's never the problem. It's always a me.
So would you want to visit Three Sisters Island if it was real?
Definitely. I think that all the places they described were just so like quaint and like perfect little island towns. And it felt like, although it was an island, like, and it's a small island, that everything was still really spread out because they had like woods and all those kinds of things. So I thought that was nice.
Who was your favorite character?
I think that Mia is my favorite character.
Yeah, me too.
I think that she is, because she's like a weirdo, but she's very nice, and she seems to have had like the most depth. Like Mia's the character that I feel like Nora Roberts wanted you to wonder about, because they like hint at like her past life and things went wrong, like with her love life and things like that. But then, and how she has all this money and her house is so nice, but she's a witch and she chooses not to really, flaunt that kind of thing. So I feel like we know a lot about her, but we don't actually get close to her.
No.
Like she's kind of that character that just leaves you wanting more.
Yeah. I think so the fact that, she's a witch and she doesn't, she says she doesn't want people to know, but I mean, look at her bookstore, what it's full of. And I think it's great. I have to say, I love the incident with the college boys and stealing the lobsters.
Yeah.
That was so funny.
Yeah, that was really funny.
And then I think one of the other ones was like when Zach was telling off his cousin for setting off the fireworks, and that was here's you ripping into this poor kid, and yes, cousin.
And I really liked. Now you've read the whole trilogy, right?
Yeah.
I want to know does it always stay from Nell's perspective throughout the books?
No. Your next book is to do with Ripley. Okay,
because I was just about to say, I feel like the next book I would like to focus on Ripley.
Yes,
and the last book focus on Mia.
Yeah.
Because it's each of the three sisters.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's perfect, because the way it's written, that's how you want it. Like you want one from each. I've never actually, I don't remember ever reading a series where it changes like that, except for Sarah Morgan's was the first one, and then this. I really don't think I've read a series where the first person's point of view changes. So.
Yes. Nora Roberts has written another trilogy that changes, or another two that have changed that way. You've got The Dark Witch, which is this first one of the Cousin O'Dwyer's trilogy, and again it takes each main character by sort of book, and then there's the Boonesborough brothers, and again it's like three brothers, and again it's like each book concerns a separate brother.
Okay.
So she tends to kind of follow through with that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm becoming a fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. What do you think your favorite scene in the story is? Do you think it was one of the ones you just talked about?
No, I actually think it's when she goes shopping for the first time on her own, and it's like standing there in front of the shop window going, do I, don't I? And Mia comes along and just basically drags her in and makes her try on stuff. And she suddenly realizes, well, actually, yes, I do like this. I do like what I'm now going to be wearing. And the fact that she's developing her own personality and not having to sort of listen to what her abusive husband tells her she must wear and how she must dress, etc. I think the fact that she allows Mia within like 3 or 4 days to put makeup on her and to give her sparkly earrings, I thought it was fantastic. How about you?
I think that I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's the scene I thought was maybe one of the most interesting was the scene where we actually finally for the first time see her future ex-husband playing tennis with his sister.
Mm-hmm.
Because we hear everything from Nell's side and obviously it's not good, it's horrific and things like that, but getting his point of view was really interesting, and then also getting his sister's point of view because she's so aware of like his mood swings and things like that, but then genuinely thinks that him and his wife had a fine marriage, knows how tough he is, but genuinely thinks that he's happy with his wife.
Yeah, I mean, do you think she was just a bit simple? Not as in.
I don't think so. I think that she didn't want to think about it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, she'll be like, oh, before she even realizes what she's doing, she's throwing the game just so he doesn't hissy fit. And then she knows like how to act so that he doesn't get mad. And I think it was interesting because I kind of read it as if she thought he was that way as like a sibling relationship, not necessarily like to other people.
Yeah.
I don't know, because she always talked about how her mom would be like, let the baby win, like he's a little sibling.
I mean, do you think he is that way because of his upbringing, because he was allowed to win at everything and he was basically almost like spoiled?
I mean, I think that he had those tendencies, and I think that they were nurtured by the spoiling.
Yeah.
That he could have done that on his own, but I think that didn't help. It just like speed tracked it. But I thought something I found hard to believe, and I know that it has to do with the magical aspects, is how easily he lets her go at the end. I don't know if I'm just being critical, but I felt like it was too easy. Like he has the knife at her throat, and then, you know, I know it's like supposed to be her power and the magic and everything is supposed to do it, scares him and makes him do it, and I get that, but I just kind of felt like I was expecting it to be way more intense and like way more action, and I kind of felt a little let down.
I can understand where you're coming from, but I think part of it could have been he wasn't expecting it. He wasn't expecting her to be so powerful. He thought that she would become the submissive woman again. So therefore he was maybe caught off guard.
Yeah, and maybe when he saw her like that, he was like, I don't want to be with someone who has a voice. So fine, you can
be, yeah. But also I've got how can I put this without spoiling things for the next book, because he does come into the next book a bit as well. I think it's to do with the fact that his dominance and his violence is so dark that he, in some ways, maybe needed to let her go because he didn't think that she would be able to counteract him.
Okay.
And you needed to see that the three were better than the one.
Okay.
That the three strong witches had a more dominant effect on him and his darkness. Does that make sense?
It does. I think it'll make more sense when I read the next book.
Yeah.
When it comes in the mail.
So what did you think of the magical element to it? Did you like the way it was written?
I mean, I thought it was nice that it was kind of subdued.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were all the undertones of it, but only a couple scenes were like blatant practicing witchcraft kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I thought it was super interesting because, living around Salem, and there are people who proclaim that they are witches and, believe what they believe and practice what they practice. And I've been in like those stores where they sell, the types of materials that they were using in the book. So I was kind of like, oh, I've seen this. I've heard of this. I've been somewhere where they sell this kind of thing. So I really liked that aspect. I liked how it was more of almost like, it seemed like she was being very respectful of the actual real Wiccan culture that there is in real life. And so I liked it because I felt like it was realistic. Like they weren't sitting there cackling over a steaming green cauldron and things were appearing out of, thin air. They were actually like, using certain stones and certain herbs, and they would tell you why. And so I liked it because it didn't feel like, fantasy shoving it down your throat.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought that it was well done. I also found it quite educational. So, the fact that there was like, okay, use rosemary to, to brush out evil spirits, to keep evil away. I thought that was really, really interesting. I mean, here in Scotland, when you move to a new house, or when you move house, you always plant a rowan tree to keep away the evil spirits, especially if you've got a tree that you don't like. If there's another tree in that garden that you don't like and you dig it out, you plant a rowan tree in its stead to keep the evil spirits away.
That's interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked how they addressed it, when Evan is trying to get into the house at first, and it feels like he's up against like this wall, but there's nothing there. And I liked it because it was realistic, because he could still break through it. It wasn't like, he was blown back 6 feet.
No.
But at the same time, he acknowledged the presence of there being something.
Yeah.
So that's why it felt more believable and less like kitschy.
Yeah.
They acknowledged it was there, but also that it wasn't, the be all end all of house protection.
Yeah. So yeah, I like that, and I think the fact that it was so subtly done was so good, and the fact that Zach accepted that she had magic.
Yeah. And I'm interested to learn more about like the backstory between Ripley and Mia, because obviously Zach was exposed to witchcraft for a while as a growing up, and so that's why he's so accepting of it. But I thought it was interesting that he didn't like mention. That's something too. So when Nell tells Zach that she's a witch, she's expecting him to be like, "What? Oh my gosh!" But she also knows that Ripley is, and Ripley's his sister. So when she's disappointed that he's not freaked out, I don't understand why she wasn't like, oh, because he's lived with Ripley. That's like, she took it a little personally.
I think because she maybe didn't think that she probably would realize that Ripley would have practiced magic beforehand. But I think maybe it was the fact that because it was so new to her, and it was not something she'd ever considered that she would have, and I think she didn't realize that he had twigged a long time ago that she was kind of the third of the group. And I think that's why she was a bit upset, was because she thought she was telling him something that maybe he didn't know. So therefore she was expecting a bigger reaction than the one she got.
That makes sense.
You know.
And then I liked how towards the end of the book they hinted how the original sister, she is Nell Air. Is that who she is?
I think so, yeah.
So, oh yeah, dance upon the air. Get it?
Yeah. Nell, I think her element is the air element.
Yeah, so I liked how towards the end of the book they had talked about how the original heir sister had an abusive husband, and it was the curse of her descendants to be in that. So you realize like that's why that happened to her.
Yeah.
I'm interested to kind of see what the other two are destined to have.
Okay. I like the fact that at the very beginning of the book you got a bit about Salem. You know, and you got the history of why the Three Sisters Island was created. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was really interesting. And at first I was like really thrown off because I wasn't expecting that to be like the first page, and I had no idea what was happening. But then it made sense, and I was like, oh, they just made the island. Okay, here we go. Let's jump in.
Yeah. So would you work in the bookstore, or would you prefer to be in the cafe?
Personally, I would work in the bookstore because I don't know how to cook. So they wouldn't want me in the cafe. If I had a skill set, I would love to work in the cafe. But I think I would have to be in the book part.
So you'd be with Lulu? Yeah. Do you think you get on with Lulu?
Probably not. She'd probably really not like me for a while. But I don't think I would really care. No. Kind of be like, all right, cool. Don't like me.
I have to say, I like the fact that at Halloween, Mia decorated the whole place, the bookshop and the cafe, and that the windows were so inviting. I think that's, for me, I think it's partly part of the draw is that part of the book is just so well described and so well written. And I feel that a lot of bookstores worldwide could take note and do an awful lot more with their windows to entice people to come in.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I know. We don't have a lot of independent bookstores. It's just mostly like Barnes and Noble. Yeah. At least not ones that are well known about. Okay. So I feel like if we had more independent bookstores, they could definitely take that. Yeah. And use that to their advantage. Because, yeah, it is so, I really like the setting. I think that's my favorite part of the whole book. It's just the island. Oh, yeah. And I also love the description of the yellow cottage is beautiful. And the fact that Nell gets to manage the garden, she gets to plant her own plants, which I think is really, really nice. Yeah. And I like Mia's garden, just sounds absolutely gorgeous. And the house, I'm like, oh, yes, please. I know. And I think it's interesting that they were hinting, obviously, that Ripley either used to live with Mia or they were so close that she left stuff there. But when she was like, oh, I still have your stuff, that seemed kind of like an abrupt exchange that kind of interrupted the flow. It was almost like a little bit of just, here's a quick little piece of information that you're going to use later kind of thing. But I liked that I didn't think that they had been close until that part. Like she did a really good job of writing them as though they genuinely just didn't like each other. And I thought for like at least half the book that they both just happened to be like descendants and that they knew about it and that they didn't get along ever. Yeah. Like that they just, because Ripley just didn't want to be a part of it and Mia did. But I didn't realize until, 3/4 of the way through that they had actually been really close. Yeah. So I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Like, I don't know if they were supposed to let on that they had used to be close.
I think so. I think I think that part of it is also the start of Ripley's journey, because she's had to come to terms, or partially come to terms, at the end of this book with the fact that she is a witch and that she has powers. But the decision is now hers as to what's she going to do with it. What's she going to do with the power she has? And is she going to use it? Is she not going to use it?
Right.
And I'm not telling you because you've got to find out in the next book.
Talk about it.
So
this was a good first Nora Roberts experience.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I've read quite a number of hers, and I really like them. There's another series, it's the McGregor series, and I'm not joking. I love that series, mainly because of the grandfather, who is Daniel McGregor. He's a conniving, scheming, wonderful man who, in like some of his books, he's trying to marry his grandkids off, and absolutely hilarious. I think he's brilliant, So that's another good series. But yes, I like her writing. It's her characters become so believable, and you almost feel you could be friends with them.
Yeah, definitely.
So from the choice of Mia, Lulu, Nell, or Ripley, who are you going to be friends with? Which one? Who draws you most to them?
As a friend, I think I would. So I would want to say that I would pick like Nell because she's very nice, but I feel like I would actually probably get along in real life best with Ripley.
Okay. Why?
I feel like she kind of thinks the same way I do. Like, I don't know. I just feel like she acts like when the two brothers were fighting and then her and Zach had to go break it up.
Yeah.
And when she was just like laughing in their faces, like, you guys are such idiots. Like, thought that was hilarious. And I was like, if I was her, I'd be laughing at them too and being like, you guys are idiots. Like, I think she just reacts to things the same way that I would react to them. Okay. So I feel like she'd be the most appropriate friend. Like, she would get my sense of humor.
Cool.
What about you?
I think I'd be drawn to Nell. I think because of the cooking aspect. Because I love cooking. And she likes to read as well. She's got both aspects. And I think the fact that she's still very unsure of herself. And in certain, mind you, probably like a lot of people, in certain situations, I am, unsure of myself. I think I'd probably be drawn to her. I would like to say I'd be friends with Mia as well. Ripley, I think, might be too dominating for me. I don't know. But I also think that Mia could be very, not claustrophobic, but demanding.
Yeah. I feel like with Mia, you'd have to put in a lot more effort to be her friend.
Yeah.
Because she's either like needy, like wanting company because she's lonely, or she's so busy and you would have to be the one trying to get a hold of her, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like Nell is the easiest person to be friends with.
Yeah.
But I feel like when it came down to it, I don't know. I might not. I might just pick Ripley. Like, if it was real life and those three were standing in front of me, I'd be like, oh, I can be really sarcastic with you.
Yeah.
I pick you.
Good stuff. So would you recommend this book to others?
Yeah, I would say that I think definitely the beginning, if you haven't read a book, because this is like, an adult book, like, feels like it's written for adults. And so if it's not something you're used to, which I feel like I'm not, then the beginning is definitely take some time getting used to the style. But then I think that once everything kind of starts getting on a roll and you start getting more and more information, that you definitely get sucked into it and it turns into a 5-star read. I definitely think I was between like, I think I was a 3.5 at the beginning, and then it, once everything kind of started happening and all the action started taking place, it moved into a 5-star read.
Good.
Yep. And what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend it to others. Heck, I have recommended it to you. So yes, I have sort of said to other folk, you should give this one a try, and I will be doing so again.
Yeah, and I really like that by the end of the book, although you knew other things are going to happen, like she's pregnant, and if you keep reading the trilogy, you'll find out about that kind of thing. You could just read this first book and be completely satisfied, I think.
Yes.
Like, I wasn't planning on picking up the other two. When I saw them on Book Outlet and they had really beautiful covers, I was like, I could read the other two. But I liked that it felt like a complete story. And it didn't feel like this huge cliffhanger and you couldn't read anything else until you picked up the next one. And I appreciate that, because although having a cliffhanger and like immediately jumping into something is nice and you feel really motivated to read, I also appreciate being able to kind of like take a step back, read other things, and then go back to it when I want.
Yeah. Yes, you could use it as a standalone, because you get the whole of Nell's story.
Yeah, and I think that I find that more with adult books. Like, when they're still part of a series, they still give you like the whole story arc. You still feel like you got a whole story and you want to continue it, but you don't have to right that second. And I like that. It feels more of like a grown-up way of reading.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Than like a YA where it's like, here's the action and I'm going to stop the book here so that you have to read the next one to finish it. That's the worst.
Yeah.
Because life doesn't really work like that.
No, it doesn't. So are we going to buddy read the other two then?
We can.
Cool.
When they come, yeah.
Yeah, be good.
We definitely can.
Yeah, be good.
But we'll focus on Rumi.
And then the Raven Boys.
Yes. Cool. I'm excited about that.
Me too. I'm excited about both of them. I think it'll be really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. I really do.
Yeah, good stuff. Is there anything else we want to say on this one?
I don't think so. I think we covered like everything.
I think so. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Works for me.
Me too.
All right. So I'm going to stop this.
Okay.
And I think that we will still be on.